So we're going to take a high-level cruise of LGL and its primary features, share a little bit about how you get started with the system, and then, of course, what support and training is provided to you. The great news is all of our support and training is free and accessible to you even as a prospective customer, and we'll go into more details of what that is later. So we will get into the product itself, but I think it can help to start at a glance to give us some context for why LGL, why might you consider us for your donor management system? We are an affordable, intuitive software for organizations of all sizes, types, and technical abilities, okay? We do not require a single database admin to use or administrate the system. Our goal is having a product or providing a product that empowers organizations to have as many team members as appropriate or helpful in the system performing those essential functions. We're not relying on a single database admin. We are on the affordable end of the spectrum, and we will definitely talk about that later and what that looks like, our all-inclusive pricing. And we say organizations of all sizes. I should say we focus mainly on small to mid-sized organizations, and that goes back to our founding here, founded by two brothers, Chris and Nick, in 2009. You can see we've had steady, sustainable growth since then, celebrating our 17th year in business this year, most likely going to welcome our 11,000th customer. But Chris and Nick have shared the mission today remains the same as it was back then, which is empowering small to mid-sized organizations with access to that good data management principles that ultimately lead to greater contributed revenue. And we'll talk about connecting the dots between a product like this, a donor management software, and how it ultimately affects your fundraising program. That support, as I mentioned, is free, but it's also quick and customized to you, coming from a compassionate team of experts. Most of our our support team members having worked in small to mid-sized fundraising shops. We've been in your shoes, and we have a lot of context for the types of issues and questions you may ask. So the quality of the answers are going to be in line with that. And then we are regularly making system and feature updates based on, of course, customer feedback and then market trends that will best serve this 11,000 customer community, trying to make that as much of a conversation as possible. All right. So we at LGL, we try to let the product speak for itself or let our customers speak for us. And so these recent quotes from customer surveys we're very grateful for. I'll just read that first one. Affordability and adaptability, zero upsells or bait and switch. You don't hold back any features with paywalls. It feels honest and sustainable. And we're very grateful for that feedback, and that's definitely something we're hoping to communicate with how we do business and with the product. So let's go a little bit more into the product itself for why LGL, and you might consider us. These are more from a donor management perspective, thinking through how does this ultimately help our bottom line. And these 4 buckets or 4 bullet points you see there, you might say, Annie, those are huge buckets into which go so many things. I've got this massive list of features that we must have, nice to have, etc. And I'd say you're right, these are pretty large reaching, but it can help, I think, whether you're evaluating LGL or another system, to make sure if at the core, is it going to help you do these 4 things? Because if we're looking for donor management, we wanted to do it, these 4 things. And pride of place there is growing stronger relationships with your supporters. So you all on the call here are doing great work in the world, helping solve societal ills, enhancing our lives in the myriad ways the nonprofit sector does. And it's a team sport towards building that vision you want to see realized. A team sport with those individuals and entities who are also invested in seeing that vision completed, that mission realized. And it starts with good relationship tracking or management in a system like LGL. And what we know is from practice, from research, from our own intuition, the stronger relationships we're building with individuals and entities, those great words based on authenticity and transparency, the larger and larger commitments, both financial and otherwise, result. It makes sense, that head and heart equation that goes into giving, but we are increasing that likelihood by building stronger relationships, starting with good tracking in a system like LGL. We're talking about fundraising, so of course we need to manage whatever strategies and tactics we are using to actually get that money through the door. So whether that's creating customized solicitations that go out via email or mailings, or you can manage your fundraising events, so our RSVPs and maybe some giving against the event. And then we want to be able to aggregate that data and create accurate reports out of the system that really tell us where are our buckets of revenue coming from? What is moving the needle on our program? What isn't? Should we sunset that spring solicitation letter? It's not making us very much anymore. Should we add an event, right? Really great questions. Discussions made even more productive when they're based in what the data is telling us. And then ultimately, a piece of technology like this is here to increase your productivity and save you time. So we'll talk about the details of that, of course, throughout the entire demo. Just contextualizing that all-in-one tracking of constituents a little bit. You all, again, probably understand this from a basic perspective, but to reiterate it, we are looking at LGL as a centralized system to track the totality of those external relationships we're building from a philanthropic and outreach perspective. You'll notice we don't exclusively use the term donor. That's intentional. We want you to see this as a place to track various types, even if they may not be financial supporters. So prime examples might be volunteers, e-newsletter subscribers who have not yet donated, others I'm sure you can think of within your own community that it makes sense to track in a system like LGL. And then we know we're building that web where non-financial supporters become financial supporters and vice versa. And since we're tracking the 360 view of the relationship in LGL, we're going to be able to see all of the interactions and communications we are initiating from our end with these folks, any responses they're making. So we ask them for a gift, they make a gift, we invite them to an event, they attend, we send them an annual report, they reply to it and say they're pleased with the work we're doing, right? All of those little details. And then of course, the ability to easily segment, sort, and filter our data to create lists that we can report out on, send emails, as I mentioned, create mailings, etc. And then on the gift management development operations side of things, we can record and acknowledge fully and partially tax deductible gifts, pledges, those promises to give over a specific amount of time. We can create payment schedules against the pledges, and then generate reminders right out of the system if we need to. We can also add in-kind gifts, the gifts of personal property. And we have a gift type to track what we call other income, which are non-tax deductible payments. It might make sense to track in a system like LGL. Maybe something like an event fee with no donation attached, merchandise, things like that. We have a feature called Goals as well that can allow you to do some basic grant management and individual major gift work. Ostensibly, these are work plans with tasks we can assign to ourselves and other team members leading up to and following an ask event. I'm happy to go more into that in the Q&A if folks would like. And then, as I keep drilling home, the ability to track our solicitations, our events, whatever strategies and tactics we are using to get that money through the door, we are tracking so that we can do that good analysis after the fact. And then here are just a few of the ways LGL can help save you time and increase your productivity. As I said, the ability to send personalized receipts, pledge reminders, thank yous, acknowledgements via LGL's email feature. We can do the same with printed mailings. both of them utilizing an integrated mail merge function where we place merge fields directly into our communications, and they will pull relevant data from the corresponding constituent and gift record. For example, things like a salutation, gift amount and gift date, if we're doing an acknowledgement, things like that. You can set up a variety of canned and custom reports to run and auto update on a specific, based on a specific frequency, whatever you and your team need to see. Happy to go more into details and use cases there in the Q&A as well. And then we will definitely look at this in the live demo, but included with your LGL subscription and accessible in the free evaluation account is access to our online forms builder, LGL Forms. And so with this, we can create both payment and non-payment forms that automatically sync back to our Little Green Light database. So for example, I have a public-facing donation form, a donor submits a gift through the form, the payment syncs to my processor like Stripe, and a submission of that data syncs to Little Green Light to add the gift to the person if they are already in the system, or to add the gift and the person entirely if they are not, or add them both. Other use cases might be an event registration form where we're accepting RSVPs and payments. We can do non-payment forms, things like a volunteer interest or sign-up form, e-newsletter sign-ups. So lots and lots of opportunities there, and we will definitely spend some time there in the demo. And then we may be integrated with software you're already using. So email marketing systems like MailChimp and Constant Contact. We have an integration with QuickBooks Online for that ever-present need to reconcile with our bookkeeper or with finance. And then if we're not currently integrated with the software you're using and you know you're going to want to continue to use that long-term, stay tuned for options talking about more on the custom integration side of things. We will get to that. So thank you for your attention in the intro, really appreciate it. We'll now proceed into our LGL account with all of that good context behind us. So here I am, I've logged into my LGL account. Here's my custom URL. When I log in, like many good databases, I am presented with a dashboard with widgets showing me my data in ideally helpful ways. For our purposes, of course, fundraising totals broken down by gift type year over year. Got a retention widget showing us how many donors we've retained year over year and the percentage retention rate. Any of my upcoming tasks or goals or constituents that I need updates on. Graph data showing us total raised year over year by month. So how does this month compare to previous months? Got a calendar showing activity across the whole account. So lots of opportunities here to see your data pulled forward in the dashboard. We can customize this from an aesthetic standpoint. So I can remove widgets, I can add ones, maybe move them around a little bit and resize if I want. And then when I save this, this will save unique to my team member profile, and then my other team members can set their dashboards up as they would like. We also have an organization-wide dashboard that everyone can see upon logging in. Both of these are printable to PDF. Great, that's the dashboard. So moving on down, or before we do that, I should say, notice the main navigation options at the top here. And when I hover over each, there are sub-navigation options listed below. We will not have time today to go through every single one of these. In fact, I don't think you'd want me to. We'd be here quite a while. But that brings up a good point, which is if you want to get into an LGL account, we offer a full featured account free for 30 days. I will put the link here in the chat. There's no credit card to put down. This is the form you would complete. And if you do end up subscribing to Little Green Light, you're going to do so right from this account. There's no moving any data over. So that is there for you if you're interested in diving into something maybe we don't get to today, or just general curiosity. So now let's move on down the Home tab and talk about team members or users, whatever you'd like to call them. LGL allows you unlimited team members or users, both in the free evaluation account and as a subscriber. For each user, we assign a role, one of 4 permission levels. And we kind of see the detailed breakdowns of those permission levels we link to those when you're adding and inviting new users here. So you can assign that appropriately. Okay, so I think don't want to overwhelm you on day one. I think we need to know now, unlimited users and 4 different roles. Great. Moving on down the Home tab here, we'll go to the Flex Importer and talk about why what we do with this tool and why it's important. So the Flex Importer in LGL allows you to create or update records in bulk in LGL from spreadsheets of data. So pretty much for the most part, anything we can add in LGL manually, we should be able to import in bulk. For example, we can import a group of constituent and records with their contact information, gift records, event attendance records, contact reports, et cetera, right? This plays an ongoing role if you subscribe to LGL in maybe doing some data cleanup that you're not able to do within the system, or importing from other systems we don't integrate with directly. But it also plays a large role in migrating your historical data into LGL at the initial start of your subscription if you do subscribe. And so let's talk about data migration and how LGL handles that. So with LGL, and we'll get the details in the pricing section, there are no onboarding fees or implementation fees, but we will leave it up to you how you want to handle your migration. And the first approach is to perform a self-service migration using our knowledge base articles, spreadsheets, import templates, things like that. About 75% of our customers do perform this approach. I'll put this in the chat here as well if there's interest. There is a video at the bottom about importing data and using the Flex Importer. So that is the first option, is a self-service approach. I should say, whether you're going with a self-service approach or with a consultant or an external help, the process is going to look fairly similar. We're extracting our data from those existing systems that we have to a CSV or Excel spreadsheet. We are then using LGL's templates to format that data so it is ready and clean and ready to import into the system. Obviously, you have access to our support and training and Q&A sessions throughout that process. The alternative approach, as I said, is to use external help, either a consultant that you find that you want to work with, which is great, or you're welcome to look at the LGL Consultant Network. These are not LGL employees. We don't have a financial relationship to them, but we've just vetted them for best practice use of LGL and fundraising in general. They're familiar with most of the systems out there and frequently take on migration projects. You can come here to request a bid to work with them to see what that project would look like, what it would entail, and costs associated, of course. You do not need to know officially that you're going to subscribe to LGL to speak with them, of course. That probably goes without saying, but I wanted to reiterate it. All right, fantastic. Making good time. Let's head on over to the Constituents tab and talk about what we can do here. In LGL, the Constituents tab is going to, oh, I'm going to delete that. Somehow someone got a very long ID. How about that doesn't look pretty, so just give me 1 second. Demo account, very good. That's more how we're supposed to look like. A Constituents tab here defaults to a blank search showing me all of the constituents in my account. So I've got 1,019 records. I can see quite a bit about each record at a glance here, name and contact information, category data here in the middle, giving data to the right. I can also then use the search and filter functions to drill down a little bit more and see specific subsets of my constituency, if you will. We can use criteria and build simple or complex queries. Lots of criteria options here. I can also filter, as I said, so maybe I want to see all of my active donors. I'll filter by giving status active donor, and the results reduced to 96. Active donor and lapsed donor, or these giving status values, are customizable in your account. So you will define what is an active donor for your organization. Is it someone who gave 12 within the past 12 months, 18 months, etc. But it's nice that I can see I have 96 active donors. I can see them at a glance, but I want to take some action with them right now. So with these 96 donors, active donors pulled in, I can click send mail to create a physical mailing, print labels and envelopes to them. Click create email to send an email to these donors right from LGL. Or I can click export results, which brings up the report builder. And I can either manually add the fields I want on my report here, or I can select a template that will have pre-selected fields. So just want to highlight pretty quick, try to make it pretty quick to take a lot of action here. So we pulled in our active donors and created a report of them within, about 20 seconds or so. All right. That was the constituents tab and some of the actions we can take. Let's go into an individual record and see what kind of data we can track here. Great. So we've landed in Mary and Tom's record. In the name information section, we see fields we'd expect to see from a CRM or donor management system: addressee, label name, salutation. Notice it says Mary and Tom's record. So let's talk about how LGL handles households. There are two approaches, and obviously we don't bind you into either. The first approach, which is shown here, is we're tracking the totality of the relationship in one record. So Mary and Tom, this is our relationship. All of the activity and giving goes all into one record. The alternative approach is Mary and Tom each get their own record connected via a relationship. With that approach, we can track individual activity. So, Mary did some volunteering, Tom attended an event, and then we can track shared activity across the accounts. So if one makes a gift, we're soft crediting the other account. So at any time we can see the household giving reflected. In addition to that spousal relationship type, we can add other custom relationship types to our account. So they're an employee of Thomas Smith and Frank is a sibling. I'm sure you can think of many different relationship types within your organization. It might make sense to track. Categories on the constituent record are also highly customizable. Fields like groups and communication tags come preloaded, and then you can add custom values to those. So VIP, board member, were added values. But you can also add entire categories yourself. So volunteer interests here is an example of a category, a custom category I've added to this account. LGL does allow you to track individual volunteering records. So Mary did 2 hours of yard maintenance on Saturday, but it can be helpful to track on a general level who has indicated they're interested in volunteering for something. We can track that, search on these values, and then most likely email them asking them to please come help us. And lots of use cases for custom categories beyond that, but that's a good example. We have a memberships function that you can enable if you would like. This allows you to assign, each membership has a membership level. These, of course, customizable based on your program. And then membership start and end dates determine whether or not a membership is considered active or lapsed. With consistent coding, of course, we can then build searches in the constituents tab saying, show me everyone whose membership is ending next month. And so if we did that, actually Mary would fall into that because she's ending in February of 2026, which is next month. All right, the final part of the constituent record I want to highlight is the related activity section here at the bottom. This is a timeline of our relationship with this person or entity with the most recent activity here at the top. Before I scroll through the timeline, just highlighting here on the side the types of activity we might be able to see on the record, any appeal requests we've sent, contact reports or our one-to-one relationship building, gifts, in-kind gifts and pledges, event invitations, mailings, tasks that we've assigned to ourselves or other team members, any volunteering the constituent has done. And when we scroll through, we can see there's a gift was made, there was an email sent, thank you for volunteering. We sent them an email, New Year update. There's that appeal request to which they donated, volunteering time. There's my personal year-end call. And on and on and on, right? All these little details that make up the relationships you're building with these folks, fairly simple to do if we're talking about a handful of people, but when it's at scale of dozens or hundreds or thousands, having all of this detail here is very important and helpful to keep us on track. All right, now onto the fundraising tab. Similar but different to the constituents tab, this is going to default to a search showing all of the gifts from this fiscal year. And then you can see the totals bar breaking that down by gift type. I can update this gift date range if I want and see different, obviously the gift records are pulling in and then the totals bar updates as accordingly. I can also build entire queries with different criteria than gift date, and similarly can filter by fields here on the left-hand side. So with all of these gifts pulled in, so these are all of my gifts from last fiscal year, I can click export results to build a report. This should look familiar. A report of those gifts, either adding those fields manually or assigning a report template. Yes, 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 very good. All right, I'm going to temporarily pull up the manual gift entry screen, but nobody panic. So many of us have done gift entry, so many of us will do it again. I'm gonna pull someone in here, good. So all I want to highlight is the related information section of the gift record. So this is where if we're performing consistent entry or coding, we're going to get a lot out of our database in terms of information about our program. So fields like campaign are going to be our overarching efforts, but fund answers the question, where is the money going? This is where we honor donor intent. Are there any restrictions or not on the gift? Let's say this is an unrestricted annual fund gift. And then appeals and events, either or, answers the question, what prompted the gift? What did we ultimately do that got that money through the door? And so maybe this is in a result to the 2026 spring appeal that we're sending. And as you can imagine, if we're coding consistently, we're going to be able to aggregate how much is that spring appeal raising and be able to make good decisions about strategy. All right, that's it. That's the only time we're going to spend on the manual gift entry screen. So good job, everyone. And then within one final thing I want to highlight in the fundraising tab, and then we'll move on, is this views drop down where, I was talking about aggregating data. This allows you to see your giving data totaled via different fields. So this is giving by fund, showing us all of our funds broken down by total raised by gift type. We can do the same for our appeals and our events. All of these, of course, exportable. So we can perform our analysis if we need to do it beyond this. Yes? Awesome. Let us now go to LGL Forms and talk about online donations and what else we can do with this feature. A reminder, LGL Forms is included with your LGL subscription and is accessible in the free evaluation account if you want to play around and enable that. Within LGL Forms, we can create both payment and non-payment forms. For those payment forms, we can accept one-time and recurring gifts. So let's go ahead and take a look at a sample form, my just basic donation form that I've created for my fake organization that doesn't exist yet, but the Friends of the Twin Peaks Library. I've added my logo, some font and color and branding choices. We can link outwards here, maybe to an annual report or something else, maybe your website, if it's not already on your website. And on these forms, we can add whatever fields we would like based on the data we would like to collect from our donors. So of course, I'm going to accept the gifts and get some contact information. But, and yes, I can make this a recurring gift if I would like, but I'm going to leave it at one time. But for example, I've added a drop down saying, please direct my donation to, and so this won't happen automatically initially, but once you've mapped this, it will happen automatically where once I submit this gift, it will sync to Little Green Light and not only be added to based on the amount field, but will be coded to the fund, appropriate fund based on what I select here. And then if I select sign up, I would like to sign up for eNews. Once I've mapped this, it will code me an LGL as subscribed or signed up for eNews. We offer reCAPTCHA on there, which we recommend enabling. And then notice this checkbox here. You can enable this on payment forms. And what this does is simply adds 3% on top of the total amount the donor is paying to help you offset processing fees. It is not saying the donor is paying the processing fees. All it's saying is, I'm going to increase my gift by 3% to help you out, help you offset what I know is going on with those fees. And so on the summary page, this is what the donor would see. We've got the subtotal at $100, 3% just right on top. And so the donor's total gift to your organization is $103. With LGL Forms, we can enable Stripe or PayPal or both within the same form. So this one has both Stripe and PayPal enabled. Notice with Stripe enabled, I can enter a credit card gift. I can do an ACH payment, Google Pay, because I'm in Chrome right now, could do Apple Pay if I was in Safari, and then PayPal as well, as I said, if we really want to do that. But I'm not going to transact a real gift today to a fake organization. So let's head back briefly. So we saw that form, we saw what happens from the donor's perspective as well. So let's say we've mapped the form back to Little Green Light, it's all ready to go, we've tested it, it's ready to go out into the world. For every form, there is a share publish section where you can pull the unique URL or link to the form. If you want to link from a donate button on your website, maybe from an email. We also provide a QR code that you can download that will send users to the form. And then we also provide the embed code should you want to embed the form right on your website. So many, many ways to share. Additionally, with LGL Forms, you can set up an automatic confirmation email to be sent with each successful payment or submission. For our purposes, this is a good use case to serve as the acknowledgement for that online gift. It's perfectly acceptable. For example, here your language will be much more mission-centric and gracious than mine, but you can see we can add those relevant fields. Thank you for your gift of this amount made on this date. We can add images here, make it a little more customizable. But you can see that this is a good time saver, as this is just sent automatically each time. Fantastic. Let's round out our conversation in the database proper with third-party integrations. I alluded to these, but these are our most popular and most widely used integrations by customers. So Constant Contact and MailChimp for those email marketing integrations, and then QuickBooks Online for accounting and reconciliation with our finance folks. We have some additional specialty integrations, Double the Donation, Landscape, CoreStorm, and Octria. Also Civic Champs for some more advanced volunteer management if you can't get what you need out of our volunteer module. I guess it's not a module, it's a feature. And then let's say we don't integrate with software you're using and you know you're going to need to track that data or use that software long term, and you want to track that data in LGL. Kind of in order from least to most technical expertise required, Zapier is something to look at. It's an external service that can allow you to sync data into Little Greenlight, even if we don't integrate with that software directly. So it's a middleware. It's its own service that you would pay for, but again, that is available and does not require coding experience. If you do have software development or coding experience, we do have an open API where you can build a custom integration should you like to. But remember, both of those are only if we don't integrate with the software you're trying to use and you want to use that longer term. All right, thank you. So getting started, yes, a reminder, it's in the chat there. If you want to sign up for that free LGL account, it's free for the first 30 days. It's also full featured, and you can get probably into what we saw today and much, much more. Feel free to sign up for that whenever that is useful. Pricing, let's talk about that. Very important conversation, very straightforward from our perspective. So there's no setup fees, but there's also no cancellation fees. There's no contracts, certainly no upsells. We really value our transparency and want you to know what you're getting yourself into, but also, as you can see, make it pretty easy to leave if it's not the right system for you. You can pay month to month if you wish. That base rate starting at $45 a month for up to 2,500 constituents. And then we increase by $15 a month each subsequent tier. You can pay month to month if you want, but if you know you're going to use the system a little bit longer, you can prepay for 12 months and get 10% off. You can prepay for 6 months and get 5% off. The subscription includes all features, unlimited users, free training and support, and includes access to that online forms for LGL forms and online donation processing. A reminder, there's no fee to LGL to using that, but you would have your own transaction fees to your processor like Stripe or PayPal. Very good. Okay. Data can be imported and exported at will. We showed the report section briefly, but just to make it explicit, within the reporting section, you will always have access to a comprehensive export of your entire database. This generates a zip file with CSV tables. And as I said, you can run that whenever you want. We don't hold you onto your data, so to speak. Free support and training, that's included. Our extensive online knowledge base and video library we have honed over these many 17 years, chock full of articles and videos with step-by-step instructions, how to do almost everything within the system. We try to infuse the best practices and the why we're doing this into those. You have access also to the support team is available via email Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern. We're at about 98% of responses received within an hour, often less. And the support team's often highlighted positively in third-party reviews like Capterra and Software Advice. In addition to that support, you'll have access to 2 or 3 times a week, we offer Q&A sessions. So these are small group webinars of no more than 4 people, where you work live in a demo account with a member of our support team on whatever questions you're having. These are really collaborative, fun sessions, customers learning from each other and from the LGL expert, and those are free, and you sign up via your account. We also have the basic training course, which is a 3-part series to help you get up and running with the system. And you're always welcome to subscribe to our blog for fundraising tips and, of course, feature updates. We appreciate, as I said, you taking the time to do this larger group session. And so beyond this, if you feel it would be helpful to speak with us in a smaller group setting, feel free to sign up for a prospective customer Q&A session. These are, not required, of course, and you can sign up whenever it's useful, whether that's now or later. And we, again, it's a live call setting, maximum of 4 participants, and we, you work live with me or another one of my colleagues. All right, at long last, thank you for listening to me talk at you for the past 43 minutes. I'm going to hop on over to the questions box and see what kind of questions folks have. Feel free to submit anything that's come up or come to mind. Aaron said, can you track memberships in addition to donors and volunteers? Yeah, so Aaron, if you remember, there's a lot of information that is packed into this presentation. So we do have that memberships feature that can allow you to say, the membership level, if it's called a household or whatever that level name is, and then we have the ability to set membership start and end dates. So the answer is yes. Claire said, how customizable are the constituent categories, and is there a limit to the number of custom fields you can add? So there's not so to answer the first question, highly customizable, as you probably saw. For each of these, groups, which is a preloaded field, you can add custom values and then add custom categories like volunteer interests. We don't limit you to the number of custom categories or values that you would add, but we would question, it becomes a thing of, excuse me, what am I trying to say? The idea of diminishing returns. If you started to say, we want to add 100 categories, we might have questions about where it might be better to track that in LGL, but we do not limit you. Cynthia said, are these forms housed on, oh, no, she got it, never mind. Susan, LGL, while we are very secure, we do not, and I'm happy to share the security, which I will actually in the chat here. We are not currently GDPR requirement. We don't meet those requirements for the EU currently. So. Chrissy said, do you know if it's relatively easy or not to move from Raiser's Edge to LGL? I would say we have customers who come from Raiser's Edge. That's not atypical. The difficulty is not necessarily always the system that you're coming from, but the complexity of the data, how it's set up, maybe if it's coming from how many multiple systems are you coming from and the number of records you're dealing with. But Raiser's Edge, you should be able to get exports out of there that you would be able to format and send in, import into LGL. That said, if you're curious, you might look at the consultant network to see if they would be able to help. I know that they're familiar, many of them are going to be familiar with Raiser's Edge. Okay, Mark, can you touch on data security? Yes, I put it in the chat, so thanks for asking that. Kate Kern said, is there an ability to track volunteering hours and roles? So I'll pull up the volunteering record to show you what we can do there, what it looks like. So when we're adding a volunteering time entry, we're of course assigning a constituent. So let's say it was Frank, and he on this past Sunday or just a couple Sundays ago, and we can categorize and say what that role was. Did they do check-in? Were they admin? Shift manager? This is obviously a lot of different kinds of volunteering, but maybe they did some training, and then we put the hours there. But within volunteering, you can see we can also add some custom fields, either multi-select categories where you can well, multi-select categories, or single select, which would result in a drop down. So we have quite a bit of customization options. Mark says, do we need to log off when updates are underway? I assume you mean when the system updates are happening, you do not need to do that. No, but I mean, if rarely are we down, and if we are, we will communicate that, but that's not really, you would never need to log out to do that. Stephanie said, does the Flex Importer support custom categories? Yes. So if you add custom categories to your account, you will be able to import to them. Yes. Susan said, can we set up a reminder auto email for lapsed donors? Nothing automatically is going to be sent from LGL, but we have right on the dashboard here your, LIBUNTs, or I guess your lapsed donors is what you said. So if we're in the constituents tab, Susan, we can filter by giving status lapsed donor, click create email, and then maybe we have an existing template that we could apply to, we could remind them. But that wouldn't happen automatically necessarily. Aaron said, do you require a separate email system like Constant Contact or MailChimp, or do you have a built-in mail system? Thank you, Aaron, for that very helpful segue. We do have our own email feature, and we do have an advanced update that is in beta, but within the next, pretty soon here, is going to turn over from beta. And just to be clear, we don't show this to prospective customers unless we're pretty confident that it's going to stay fairly similar. So that's why you get to see this now. Our email builder can be used for a variety of things. Actually, that's not the one I wanted to show you, sorry. One important feature is the ability to send a bulk marketing email. While it is not inherently CAN-SPAM compliant, our email system, you can use it for that. You can see we have some ability to add headings and buttons and images to kind of finagle this type of marketing email. Also can see it on mobile. We do have a recommended way to create an opt-out form so that people can opt out and unsubscribe from your emails, again, because this is not inherently CAN-SPAM compliant. We also have the ability with our email feature in this new beta, the advanced email, is to schedule sending up to 30 days in advance, which is helpful. So no, we do not require, and if our email system, our email feature is enough for your purposes, then we would welcome you to just use that exclusively if you wanted to. Lee, yes, LGL does have a direct integration with QuickBooks Online. Let me pull up, I will just share the knowledge base resource in the chats if folks would like to learn more about that. But for the most part, how the QuickBooks Online integration works is we are adding gift records to LGL either manually or importing them. And then we are pre-coding them in LGL to product, services, classes, payment types. We then sync those to QuickBooks Online as sales receipts to undeposited funds, where you can then make those deposits. That is a very, very, very basic overview of that, but I didn't send that, I'll put that in the chat. Stephanie said, does the system support recurring membership fees? Fees or payments, if we just want to call them payments, then yes. Remember on our forms, we can accept both. Oops, that's not the one I wanted to look at, this one. We can accept both one-time, monthly, yearly, quarterly, so we can do recurring gifts, yes. Michelle said, when you make a change to a constituent data in LGL, does that flow to QBO automatically? No, the only updates that would happen would be, it's not going to be like contact information or that, but if you add a gift in LGL, it will then be queued here where you notice each gift record is coded to these, pre-coded to these fields, and then we will sync those to QBO. Matthew said, can you import data from DonorSnap? As long as you're able to export data from DonorSnap to a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet, you should be able to format that to import into LGL. It won't necessarily come out perfect, ready-made to import directly into LGL, but you will perform that work in updating that spreadsheet. Catherine said, what happens if donors say John and Betsy Smith in one donation and Betsy and John Smith in the next? Does the system figure that out? I mean, no. If the answer, I think the question you're asking more is how do we match existing things that are coming into LGL? How do we match what's happening to existing constituent records? And so we have ways to mitigate that in a lot of different ways, but that is all about what we call matching. And so we're telling the system, if we're importing, let's say, or if we're saving a donation from an online gift, match on email address and name, which says whatever data is coming in through the email address and name fields, it needs to match exactly to those fields in LGL in order to match to that constituent. And so in that situation, Catherine, there wouldn't be a match, but LGL this is why one of the reasons we strongly recommend reviewing your submissions that come in from forms, from LGL forms, because you have an opportunity. Let's say, sorry, I can't, all these are errored. Let's say on this one, if it's saying it's creating a new constituent record, it's not matching to an existing one, right? It's saying, no, it's not matching to anyone, but you know this person is in LGL. You can force it to match the correct record. And so in the situation you've talked about, it would, in the situation you're describing, you would most likely be reviewing that and see, okay, no, they're already in the system. I need to match to them. All right, so that got a little in the weeds, but all right. Cynthia, did you say earlier that there are spreadsheet templates that we should use when importing data? Yes, I'm happy to share those if you would like. While we're here, and I'll go back to the help page real quick just to highlight what's going on there, but there you go. All right. And the help page in every LGL account looks the same. So this is going to be what you'll see. This is where you can send us a support request to the team where we'll monitor that and reply. This is also where you can sign up for those Q&A sessions I mentioned, and then any additional trainings. Okay. Mark says, what key foundational decisions should we make when setting up a system? You spoke about defining 2 constituent approaches. Are there any other things we should consider at the startup? That's a much bigger question that I can probably answer today, Mark, but I think I was sending you here to migrating to LGL from your current system is a great way to start, and will kind of help you think through those considerations and setup. So here, I'll send this to everyone. Yes, all right. Claire's asking about grant applications and reporting. So yeah, happy to talk about the goals feature. So a reminder, the goals feature here, these are not gift records themselves. They don't have monetary value, but rather this allows us to perform some, set up our work plans, let's say, for our grants, or as you can see here, predominantly capital campaign work from this fiscal. But let me pull in, Claire, for our purposes, a grant one so we can look at that. So for example, let's look at this one, the Community and Arts. That's the name of the funder. This is connected to their record. We've created a goal, we've named it 2025 General Operating Ask. We set the ask goal amount. We can project high-low if we want. And then if and when we receive the gift, that will be coded against this to understand how we did. And then within the goal itself, we can assign tasks to ourselves and other team members leading up to and following that ask event. So our program officer call, the LOIs due, the proposals due, here's the gift we got, and the report is due. And so we can report out on all of these fields. If we're coding these consistently, we can even just look in this goals tab to see how much do we have in the ask pipeline, how much are we projecting, pledged and received, etc. Catherine said, how about moves from Bloomerang? So that's again a question about migration. Same answer. As long as we're going to be extracting our data to a CSV or Excel file, and then we'll be formatting that to import into LGL. Tracy, the slides I'm using are in the handouts tab. So if you would like to take those with you, or please do so, they should be in the handouts tab. And Tracy, we do not do silent auction bidding. If you need kind of auction software, we might recommend taking a look at Octria. We do have an integration, an import template that we have with them. So we ourselves do not do that. Aaron, so we do have an events feature. What we like to say is LGL Events does basic event management very well. So we're tracking who we invited, who RSVP'd, who attended, any giving against the event, whether it's tax deductible or otherwise. And then we have some basic customization options. So creating categories that have, meal preference or t-shirt size, or maybe their role at the event. We also can add event attributes, things like long text, numbers, plain text, things like that. And so then we could also use LGL forms to create event registration forms where people sign up and then are synced to that event in LGL. Lee, yes, LGL does integrate with QuickBooks Online. So just want to highlight, we have 1 minute left. I've got quite a few questions here to go through. So if you need to move on with your day, please, oh, now it's 11 or the top of the hour. Please move on with your day if you need to. I'll hang on here and work through these questions for a little bit, but thank you for your time and attention and really appreciate it. Take care and have a good day. Karen said, can work from home sign in and work with LGL from home? So LGL is cloud-based, so this is accessible anywhere you have an internet connection and a browser. Stephanie, we do not have necessarily a scheduling function for volunteers. If you needed that, we would recommend looking at another solution for that. Aaron said, where do you host your system? AWS, Azure? I believe we're on AWS, but you can read more about that in our security and how that works. Cynthia said, in the training library is the collection of trainings that basically tell us do this first, do this second for setting up our account. Sort of. There is a getting started section that we might recommend taking a look at. So I will link to that. That might be a good place to start. All right. Matthew, I don't have time to do a demo of an actual import right now, but you can certainly import donor information with multiple donations, multiple rows of gifts. Megan said, I might have missed this. If we become a customer, does LGL offer an onboarding session with a team member? You won't have a dedicated kind of account manager or anything like that, Megan. What we would offer is onboarding Q&A sessions. So same style as what we would talk about here. You would sign up for these via the help page. In those, we don't work in your individual account. So those would be more general Q&As where we can demo in a demo account. Mark said, does the system date timestamp show by use who made modifications to a contact record? We don't have an audit trail per se, Mark, that you can access. We have something similar, something close where it can say, you know, show me every constituent record that was updated by this team member and was updated within this date. So you could kind of drill down. If some, you know, if you completely delete a constituent, you know, you can email us and ask, and we can see if we can recover it from the back end, things like that. There's not going to be a full audit trail that you're going to have access to. Aaron said, when checking out, can we have both a membership and an event charge together? Sure, yes, you can generate multiple gifts from the same event, same kind of, or same form, same deal, where if we buy a ticket and add on an optional donation, those might be coded differently and be different types of payments. Aaron, the rationale for the name Little Green Light, I believe the partner said long ago, is based on a song. I forget which one and which song, but it has served us well, and we like to say we're a bright light illuminating data. Yes. Matthew said, yes, your main question is whether LGL can take an Excel database with massive data such as full donation history. Yes, the Flex Importer can take, you know, up thousands and thousands of rows of data if you want to. I think our recommendation would be to start with a much smaller data set until you get very used to the Flex Importer, so that you're not, you know, wasting time kind of importing thousands of and then having to wait to undo it if you miss one thing. But yeah. Karen said, can we have multiple logins for the 30-day trial? You can have as many team members. Yeah, you have unlimited team members or users in the free evaluation as well. Catherine, the name of the system is Octria. So it's this one, Octria. Okay. Claire said, we run lots of programs for kids. Can household records include more than 2 people? Can we add event attendance info for different kids in a household? So just to make the implicit explicit, LGL does not have kind of 3 separate records where there's a household record, and then let's say there's 2 spouses in that as well. And so that's a total of 3 records. We do not have that structure. You can either have one record with, you know, both parents or all of the family with the kids, things like that. You can track all of the data in one record, or you can have each of them in their own record. In terms of the kids, whether or not you would want to add them as constituents themselves in LGL might be a question, and there might be places in LGL we could track that beyond just adding them. Tracy said, on the constituent file, Mary and Tom's last names were spelled differently. Does your system autocorrect or highlight this type of discrepancy? I'm not sure what. Oh, no, it wouldn't. But what you can, if let's say they had the same, it would not highlight that discrepancy. No, Tracy, it would not. So I'll just leave it there. Cynthia, thank you. Very helpful. Can't wait to start using this. Yay, we like to hear that. That's great. All right, thank you, everyone. We're at the end of the questions. Really appreciate your time and attention, engagement. Lots of really great questions. Take care of yourselves wherever you are. Let us know how we can help, and have a really, really good rest of your week. Take care.